For more on this story, we're pleased to be joined now by political commentator Michael Reagan. You can find and follow Michael on Twitter at Reagan World. He's Skyping in from Southern California. Meantime, joining us from our Newsmax newsroom, former Chief of Staff for Congressman Walter B. Jones of North Carolina, Glen Downs. Michael, first to you. Donald Trump is saying that Sarah Palin could play a role in his administration. Is he hinting a possible selection of Sarah for the vice presidential nomination again?
Hope not, because if he names her as the vice presidential nominee, should he receive the nomination, he will be on the ash heap of history and will not win the general election in November. It's really simple. There's a small cadre of people who support Sarah Palin, but it's not far and wide. It doesn't reach out to more moderate Republicans, more liberal Republicans, if you will. And you're going to need all of those people if you want to win the election in November. This may help Donald Trump in the primaries to finally get rid of Ted Cruz, but she will not help him in the general election. And to mention that she may be on the ticket or she may have a spot in his administration, I think is a huge mistake for Donald Trump.
Glenn, shortly after Sarah Palin made her announcement, conservative broadcaster, author, personality Glen Beck got set to endorse Ted Cruz publicly. Are the conservative battle lines being drawn, and is a Glen Beck endorsement good news for Ted Cruz?
Well, I suppose a Glen Beck endorsement is good news, like the Sarah Palin endorsement was good news for Mr. Trump. It was probably a one-day kind of phenomenon. So I agree with Michael Reagan that each of these guys getting too allied with somebody else that doesn't bring and doesn't add to raise that ceiling that Donald Trump has and Ted Cruz has, just with a different group of people, is going to be a little problematic.
Well, you know, it's very interesting. While all eyes are on the Hawkeye state and the upcoming Iowa caucuses, there is a new poll in Florida conducted by Florida Atlantic University, and it shows Trump with a commanding lead in the Sunshine State. Look at that, 48% for Trump, Ted Cruz second at 16%, Marco Rubio at 11%, and Jeb Bush at 10%. Michael, there are some folks who say Florida is not really a part of the South, but other southern states, will Trump have trouble? Will they go to Cruz, or is Trump really on the march and on the upswing?
Well, you'll find out about Trump when you have the Iowa caucuses and, of course, the New Hampshire primary. But remember, the Iowa caucuses aren't known for picking the nominee of the Republican Party very often, at all. So Trump may win in Iowa. It may give him momentum going through it. But again, you're going to have this stopgap in Florida where you've got two Floridians running also for the nomination. Remember, Florida is needed by the Republican Party as well as Ohio to win the election in November. And that's what he's got to be thinking about. And it caused me great concern to do what he did yesterday, because he only needs Sarah for Iowa. He doesn't need her for Florida. He doesn't need her for anybody else. He's far enough along in the poll. So I'm trying to figure out, why in the world would he do this? Because he's choosing someone who actually wants to have more press time than he does.
All right. Speaking of someone else who got time with the media, Jeb Bush came on with me for a live Newsmax Prime interview last night, and he had a few choice words about Trump's conservatism. Let's look and listen.
He's a junkyard dog, that's for sure. I seem to be the target of most of his attacks. I don't know why he's so worried about me. Maybe he thinks that I'm a real threat to him, because I am. I'm the only guy that has taken him on. I think Mark and Rush are right that he is not a committed conservative. There's nothing in his record that suggests to me that he's a conservative.
Glen Downs, you just heard Jeb reference Mark Levin and Rush Limbaugh with some criticism of Donald Trump. But the phrase junkyard dog and the whole questioning of Trump's conservatism, is that going to work for a guy known as being really the avatar of the establishment?
Well, probably not, to be honest with you. Listen, there's a great battle going on right now to define what is conservatism. There's different wings of conservatism, and this is as part of what's being played out here in this primary right now. But more importantly, at least where Mr. Trump is concerned, it's the question of being the establishment versus someone that's trying to storm the barricades, if you will, the Main Street versus Wall Street. And so he and Jeb Bush are on completely different sides of that divide.
And Michael, while there is dissension there that is just, I guess, part of function of the calendar in the upcoming Iowa caucuses, Jeb Bush had some very interesting things to say about Hillary Clinton in light of the new revelations about her possession of classified material that exceeds top secret status. Let's hear what Jeb had to say about Hillary last night.
If she did break the law, she of course should be prosecuted. I don't know if she's broken the law. What I do know is she's untrustworthy. She hasn't told the truth. She's tried to hide the fact that she basically had a private server to protect her personal ambition at the expense of national security.
So Jeb probably on firmer ground with the Republicans with that criticism of Hillary. Michael, will that win him more supporters down the stretch here?
No, I don't think it will at this point in time, because he's very uneasy when he goes on television and tries to lay out his agenda or what have you. He repeats a lot. He doesn't look comfortable. He's looking down at his notes as if some consultant gave him talking points. He needs to be more off the cuff if indeed he wants to do damage to a Donald Trump who is absolutely off the cuff. Yeah, the Bushes just have that problem, Jeb does, in speaking off the cuff from his heart. He's speaking from talking points given to him by his people, and he needs to throw those away and talk from the heart, which he's not.
Authenticity rather than polished statements or driving talking points. Michael, an astute observation, because that's something that in 2016 the voters want to see. Glen Downs, continuing on the notion of Hillary. Scotty Nell Hughes was on this program last night. She's the chief political correspondent for USA Radio Networks. And Scotty Nell said, with the current administration in office, prosecution for Hillary is highly unlikely. Do you share her doubts?
Well, sure I do. Listen, this administration has completely chosen to not prosecute all kinds of lawlessness. So this would fit in line with this. But the reports that we're hearing and have heard from Capitol Hill and elsewhere, and some have leaked into the media now, indicate that that's a very, very large, potentially public interest investigation has been launched against Mrs. Clinton and against the State Department. And so if those reports are credible and true, you're looking at the possibility of huge numbers of FBI agents and others taking a stand. It will make it very difficult not to prosecute her if, as indictments are recommended.
Yeah, final 20 seconds to you, Michael. Go ahead, sir.
I mean, if that should happen, beware. Joe Biden could show back up again. I will tell you, Joe Biden is liked by a number of people in the United States of America. He seems, if you will, calm and cool and collected compared to all those who are running for the nomination of the respective parties.
So maybe in the long run, Joe was simply biding his time. Glen Downs and Michael Reagan, we thank you for your time. Again, you can find and follow Michael on Twitter at Reagan World. There is more to come here on Newsmax Prime right after this.